disappear from your life. Watch me. Cold-blooded. To my job now. Oh, you realize what you lost now. I've been pressure never stop now, but I'm way too good at goodbyes. Bet you thought grass was green on that other side. Guess what? I'ma help you decide. Tattooed on my tears, no, I swear that you won't catch me cry. Got no reasons left to rewind. I gave you my word. Try it again, I'll put you on a bench. Do not disturb. To think I used to dream of being your wife. Cold-blooded. Boy, I'm cold-blooded. Cold-blooded. All this blue ice water in my veins. Memorial service in your name. Cold-blooded, blooded.
It's 3 a.m. I just touched down. Wanna call me to buzz down. It's love over lust now. I don't know who to trust now. Tell me who can I trust now? Hey. Yeah. It's 3 a.m. I just touched down. Wanna call me to buzz down. It's love over lust now. I don't know who to trust now. Yeah. Who can I trust now? Hey. Lately I've been on the go. School is home away from home. Inner teed up on my own. Load up the beat, I'm in my zone. I feel alive today. Don't fuck up my vibe today. Don't come at me stirring my pot. You might get erased from the plot and end up on the plot of them grass blades. They been throwing me mad shade. All this ducking and dodging, your offs in the wavelengths. You negative headspace. That version of me that you thought that you knew had been newly updated. I'm activated. Whatever they on, oversaturated. I'm the cure, my intention is pure. My life been a blur, yes sir. Yeah. I've been stitching my wounds and flipping my tunes and versing my curses. I wrote it in braille, never stale. I spoke it in cursive. I'm not from where earth is. The features ethereal, the ancestors surging through veins. I've been curving and purging all person in places and things that don't serve me. My hands on the cloud, my feet where the turf is. That's perfect. On God, yeah, I'm activated. Control, burning down trees. Big shot on my ashtrays. Never empty, I'm litty. I've been painting the city. Still painting the city. It's 3 a.m. I just touched down. Wanna call me to buzz down. It's love over lust now. I don't know who to trust now. Tell me who can I trust now? Hey. Yeah. It's 3 a.m. I just touched down. Wanna call me to buzz down. It's love over lust now. I don't know who to trust now. Yeah. Who can I trust now? I've been painting the city. It's 3 a.m. I just touched down. Wanna call me to buzz down.
I would die a happy death if I knew that Hello and surprise. Welcome to the SMITE 2 Alpha Weekend 4 Dev Insight stream. We're going to have servers go live for our latest Alpha Weekend playtest later today. My name's Isaiah, and I'm going to host this show today, take you all through everything that you can expect in this playtest. And with me today, I've got AJ, I've got our executive producer, Alex, and I've also got Pon from the design team. First of all, how you all doing, guys?
Doing great.
Great, yeah.
Oh, yeah. A little surprised to be here.
A
but
little
excited
surprised. Yeah, I know. We kind of surprised everybody with this one, right? So, Alex, let's address the kind of elephant or the Ganesh in the room, as you would say. Why are we here today, you know?
Yeah, so as everybody knows, because we've announced this date publicly, on August 27th, we're going to be going into 24/7 alpha. And really for the game, that's the most important thing right now, is how do we ship the best game possible for 24/7 alpha? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of work that we still need to do to get to that 24/7 alpha. And initially, we were planning on running this test next week.
Next week, yeah.
But we got the build into a good enough state earlier this week that we started thinking, what if we did the playtest this week so that we could get information from players sooner about what's working, what feels good, what doesn't feel good, are we on the right track? Then that would give us another week to make the polish, make the changes that we need to make based on their feedback. So really the reason why we're doing this early, why we bumped up the plans, is because we wanted to hear from you guys. We want to hear, are we on the right track? This is kind of like a checkpoint more than a, oh, there's so much cool stuff. There's a lot of cool stuff, but a lot of it's kind of in progress. But we want your feedback on the in-progress stuff so we know if we're on the right track. Some of the stuff to look for, and just to talk a little bit about like our philosophy right now, the feedback that we took coming out of the last playtest was the game's feeling better. Every god that we add makes the game feel more fun because there's more to do. Mm-hmm. But we really need to focus on optimization and performance. We really need to focus on enabling more play styles and adding more strategic choice to the game. And that's what you're going to see in the playtest this week. So we have some of our optimization improvements that are in for this playtest. I don't want to oversell it. The main goal for this playtest, you should feel it's less hitchy and more steady, I would say. And not even as good as it was in our dev playtest this morning, because we've done a lot more on that front. But that was kind of the first focus for the optimization. So you're not going to see a huge increase to your base frame rate, but you should see a steadier frame rate in this test. You're also going to see a new pre-match screen where you're going to pick a series of aspects. Did I use the right word? Okay. Mm-hmm. We just said the word recently, so I got used to saying it. Which AJ and Pon are going to talk more about.
Oh, yeah.
Which should enable more playstyles. There's going to be Susanoo, Ares, and the other big area of gameplay diversity that players were telling us they wanted to see is Arena.
Yes.
So you're going to have, again, kind of a maybe slightly early version of Arena that you can go into and play. There are some known bugs with it that we're going to be addressing before we're closed alpha. But again, we really wanted to get all of this new content into your hands a little bit earlier than we had previously planned so that we can get your feedback and then have time to address that feedback before we have to lock a build for 24/7 alpha, which is what really matters. Because the game can be fun for a day at a time or 2 days at a time. But when you're playing it for a week at a time, for a month at a time, for forever at a time, the little things start to feel worse and those become more noticeable. So giving ourselves the extra time to address the feedback from this weekend we thought was really important. And surprise, sorry. Hopefully y'all enjoy playing this weekend. And please let us know what you think. Fill out the surveys. If you're on the Discord, there is a Discord channel where you can post your issues, or
we've got a bug report channel and a feedback channel.
Yeah, and we're there. You'll see me posting on them. You'll see Isaiah posting on them. We really do read everything that y'all have to say. So I just want to say thank you to our community for playing the game and for the surprise little playtest.
Yeah.
So that's most of what I want to say. Anything that I missed, guys?
No, that's
you did everything. That's why we brought you on the show.
Okay, awesome.
Sweet. Well, Alex is going to take off and do some more work. But before we get into the nitty gritty of everything, another Alpha Weekend means we've got another esports tournament happening this weekend. We're going to be running a tournament on July 20th for the North America and EMEA regions. Join the official SMITE 2 esports Discord if you want info on how to sign up, how to participate. If you want to find a team, you want to look for scrims, we're going to have a tournament that's happening this weekend with a $2,500 prize pool for both the North American and the EMEA region. So if you're interested in checking out Alpha Weekend 4 and getting a little bit competitive, hop in and join our esports community and get ready for the tournament. So that's really all of our big announcements for today. As Alex was saying, this is a little bit earlier than we expected, so we didn't have time to really prepare a full showcase stream that you're used to. So we're going to kind of do things fast and loose. Patch notes are live on smite2.com if you want to follow along. We're going to do the same thing. We're just going to pull up patch notes and scroll through them. So we've got Pawn, our driver in the back. I know, right? Real-time scrolling. We're doing it live. So Pawn, AJ, let's kind of get right into it. We've got the alpha test status. That's just a quick reminder. You can now access the survey from in-game via the escape menu. So if you really want to get that feedback, that's your quick way to access it. But let's hop right into gameplay. Alex mentioned it, but we've got relics and aspects, kind of our new pre-game feature that Alex was talking about. What's going on here?
Yeah, these are the big exciting new gameplay feature for this alpha test. We saw a lot of feedback about wanting some additional levels of choice for specializing your characters, and we were doing the continuations of the experiment with combat blink versus beads and things like that, right? When we were doing combat blink versus beads, we said that the current flow was kind of temporary, right? You could change it in the store if you wanted to, but it was a little awkward. Yeah. So this is kind of what we were referring to. So as we were looking at multiple options for your starting active item, we were like, okay, this is reminiscent of the relic system. Let's use the same name. Obviously, it's going to be different. There's going to be intentional changes, things that we can do differently in the new game, in the new engine, things we want to try differently from a design direction. So it is effectively a relic system, but in a very new way. And the aspects are essentially a starter item system, but in a new way as well. So two of the key differences right now with those are, number one, they do not take up an item slot. So there's a new aspect slot that is an extra slot. So you won't be sacrificing any part of your build when you take one of these. This is a completely new feature for every character in Smite to get. And they're all powerful combat focuses. So as we get into the examples of them specifically, we'll go over that a little bit more. But the goals and everything are here, presented for both of those. We're going to jump into game real quick and show you the actual flow for picking your aspects and relics.
I need to hop to not this camera because there's stuff I can't show you because I have to literally Alt-Tab.
He's got secrets.
I have to actually Alt-Tab
so
to get this working.
Once Pawn pulls it up, we're going to go through. So what's going to happen is as soon as you load into a match, remember everyone knows the auto build picker you've been presented with in Smite 2 to let you choose one of the default auto builds or pick manual build. After you pick your build, you will then be presented with your relic choice. So there won't be a default relic anymore, like we had to choose blink or beads and you had to swap and whatever. Now you just get all three presented equally. Spoiler, there's a new one.
Yep.
So you'll get all three presented to you equally. You can choose which one you want to pick to start with. And then after that, it'll show you all 5 aspects and you can pick from one of those. Now, once you make your selections, you can hit the undo button in the store, which that might be a new addition this alpha. I can't remember how, it's relatively new. Yeah. So you can undo those if you made a mistake, like maybe you've been playing carry all day and then you play your first solo game and you pick the wrong one, just muscle memory. You can hit undo and pick a different aspect of relic. Once you leave the base though, you will not be able to change it.
Locked.
Yeah. Or good to hop in game.
So last test we allowed people to swap relics all they want. That's not gonna be the case. So here you go. You see your manual builds. Then here are your 3 relics. The Blink Rune and Purification, which you've seen before, and Sundering Arc.
Sundering Arc's the new one.
New one. So should we just go over what Sundering Arc does now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's go over that now since we're here.
Okay. So those of you who are familiar with Smite 1, which is most of you, should understand that this new Sunder is effectively a combination of the Sunder effect and the old Hand of the Gods effect.
Yes.
So we were looking for something that's exciting and powerful and can actually stand up to be a reasonable competition against Blink and Beads. We wanted something that could be powerful in combat, but also had a really strong map utility advantage. So we should probably pick this one whenever we do pick it, Pawn. But you'll activate this. You will immediately do a burst cone in front of you. That'll apply a strong true damage over time dot to all gods that are hit by it, and it will apply an immediate huge burst damage to all jungle camps, including jungle bosses.
Yes, that's your secure.
So now you can use this, and it's AoE now. It's bigger. It hits gods. So now you can buy this, jump into a fire giant for a steal or secure, sunder all the enemy gods that are in the area, and potentially steal the fire giant. It's like a really big playmaker, and it's got a lower cooldown than the other relics. So if you want to try something that's up a little bit more often, it's been really interesting. It's been really popular on supports and junglers so far. But yeah, really cool. So we'll demo that as soon as we go over the aspects. So here you can see all 5 aspects. They're kind of themed around like class or role. For words you would hear in a fantasy RPG. We're using a lot of our existing Smite 1 art right now, so these might be placeholder names or placeholder art that will move through into the future. I know the community was already talking a little bit about the theming of some of them. We're trying to keep our text short, so we're not really including a lot of theming words in the descriptions either. It's just the functions. So let's look at these aspects. So I mentioned before, the goal is for combat focus, not economic focus. Really, we want to be careful because if any one of these has an economic incentive, it generally becomes mandatory. And then you lose the choice of an aspect. So one of the main things we wanted here is to retain this as a choice that make these really flexible on different gods and different roles and different play styles. Some of them, I could imagine you read these and go, oh, I actually could like 2 or 3 of these all could feel good on, let's say, on her in carry. I really could like Spiritualist, I could like Archmage, I could like Ranger. And it depends on you if you want to play or how you want to play around the effect and how you want to maximize it for you. If there's a one that gives you bonus golden XP in there, you pretty much got to take it. So we did want these to be flexible. Generally, they're designed to have a pretty clear and obvious synergy for a specific roller play style, but then they have a lot of room to flex outside that. We wanted all of these to have effects that scale pretty well into the late game, even though they are also picked at level 1. And another big elephant in the room on this is there 4 of these are all aggressive, and only 1 is kind of defensive, the Warden, and that is the one that kind of requires you to be near an additional ally god. So that one only really functions in the support lane or if you're playing a unique comp. And really, we wanted to avoid giving free protections at level 1 to too many different roles. So for example, a common example is a solo lane. People like, oh, maybe we want a tanky solo, or maybe we want a defensive solo. If people buy the defensive solo, they just sit and wave and don't do anything. Or if one buys the aggressive and one buys defensive, they just cancel out. So it doesn't really make for very exciting gameplay. So that's why there's only one tanky option. We're really we made some early game TTK changes last alpha. We're trying to keep the early game of Smite 2 really dynamic and aggressive, with the exceptions of if you want to pick a support, you can move into Warden. But Spiritualist and Barbarian also work really well on support. So supports still have really cool, fun choices.
Yeah, double Barbarian in the duo lane, you can just suddenly immediately spike someone for a lot of damage, and that's a perfectly viable option compared to Warden as well.
So let's go through the effects individually now. Barbarian is a basic attack true bonus damage. Big spike of true damage on a single target basic attack. This hits the gods only. It won't be consumed if you miss or hit minions. So this is when, if you play around the cooldown timing really well, you can get a really big spike of poke damage on your opponent. Works really well in the solo lane, or like Pon said, you can have some outside applications elsewhere. Noticeably, compared to the others, it doesn't have like true percent scaling damage. It has a base plus per level, so it works really well on tanky gods. Spiritualist does bonus physical damage in an AoE, effectively a Golden Blade style effect. Works on ranged attacks.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Works on all basic attacks. It scales with true percent damage of your basic attack. So as you build up more basic attack damage, it's going to hit harder. Hits everyone in range. So really cool opportunities there for jungle clear and lane clear, or just, poking gods, because it hits the target. It affects if you only shoot one target, they still take that bonus damage too. So it's still good against them. Archmage, this is your bigger burst of ability damage only, but on a longer cooldown. So this one is a big 20% additional damage is a big magnification of damage, right? And that's going to amplify up throughout the late game, but it's got a little bit longer cooldown. You're going to want to play around it more carefully. Warden, this one gets you grants just you gain protections over time. I saw a lot of people who read this in the flash test and tested, didn't really read it super closely. We're worried about this being a defensive aura. It is not a defensive aura. We're still unaware of the problems that those had created in Smite 1, trying to avoid those. This one gives you stacking protections as long as you're standing near an allied god, and when you reach max stacks, you get a movement speed aura granted to you and allied god. So very good for keeping yourself alive in the early game, with the base protections being a significant part of this in the early game. And that little bit of movement speed, it doesn't seem like much, but Smite 2 gods are faster at level 1 than they ever were in Smite 1, so it's really impactful. Helps you escape, helps you hit kills. People know how strong movement speed are. We remember the Boomba's mask meme movement speed meta. It's strong, so this is a really powerful effect too. And then finally, we have one of the most unique and interesting ones, really exciting.
This is something all new, right?
Yeah, it feels very new. Like, it's hard to do things that are completely new, but here we are trying it out. Basic attacks and abilities deal 10% bonus damage to enemies 7.5 meters or further. So that's just a little bit shorter than your regular basic attack, ranged basic attack range.
Range basic attacks are 8.8 for context.
Which is a direct conversion from the 55 in Smite 1. So maybe we should pick that one, Pon, so we can show off the unique targeter first. But they all have a little bit of bonus effects to show when you're triggering it, when you're hitting things, but we wanted to keep them relatively subtle. There's a new little feature on the game as well, where you can see on the left when you buy an item, you get a notification for what you bought. So back to Ranger, if you look at Pon's reticle, right below that, there's a little orange arrow, like the arrow of his Ranger item. Any gods beyond that arrow are the ones that are going to take the bonus damage. This affects all abilities and basic attacks.
Here we go.
The rest of them mostly just have a bonus hit effect. So when you hit a god, you'll see a little bit of a bonus particle effect explosion to help signify that you've shown that. And I believe they'll all have bonus item damage yellow numbers, which is really cool. We've got some designers joining the team. They're doing some things in some unique ways. So these are implemented in a really cool way, where effectively the percent magnified damage is actually calculated off of the already mitigated damage and then reapplied as true damage. So it's effectively the same as true percent increase, but it actually displays as a unique number.
Nice.
Which, you know, displaying as a unique number does have implications as far as things like crit or like stacking with other effects. But it's a really nice way to do a percent damage amp in a way that's a lot more visible and tangible than it was in Smite 1.
Cool. Well, that's all for relics and aspects. Pon, did you want to show off Sunder in game really quick?
Oh yeah, we can do that real quick.
Oh, let's sunder someone.
Okay, well let's go fast.
There we go.
You have your cooldown sheets on,
I should. I mean, there we go.
so you can sunder all we want.
Huge spike.
There we go.
So yeah, the Sunder is designed to like, we're breaking the scaling here a little bit potentially, because Pon's level 20 and he's fighting early game jungle camps, but it doesn't full clear jungle camps in the early game, but it does get them mostly dead. You'll have to do a little bit of damage to them, to the boss monster. This is also a future build, so there might be some hidden features sneaking around in the game. And the chunk it does to bosses is, you know, that significant chunk you could see there. It's 1,000 damage to. Yep. It also has some really unique scaling. It's a little hard to describe in the tooltip, but Sunder, the scaling damage to players is just pretty standard base plus per level. But to jungle camps, it has a scale up until level 10 at level 10, and then it jumps up to 1,000 at level 10. So it's kind of a gradual scaling in the early game to prevent it from just one-shotting camps. But then around level 10, we're just like, we do want it to make sure it's really impactful against jungle bosses. So the damage just jumps up at that point. Yeah. So, did you sunder that Ymir for us yet, Pon?
There we go. See the dot?
Yeah, so its true damage is really good against people who are relatively squishy, and you can also AoE apply this to people, and you can have other people also apply this, so you can have a lot of damage come out from this effect. And it's on a lower cooldown than all the rest of the other relic choices. Yeah,
I'm really excited about this unique combination of like effects that is familiar to us from Smite 1, but never really been done in this shape, in this size, in this combination. Like, when you have something like Hand of the Gods, it always felt like too niche, and it felt too mandatory. But now you have a bigger trade-off between Blink and Beads and this, and so that's a harder decision. And it has a lot more wide application when you do pick it up, makes it useful in more ways.
Absolutely. Well, I'm super excited for the community to get their hands on relics and aspects. But let's keep on moving through patch notes here. We've got just some movement system updates specifically for console, which I know is a big one. Got a lot of feedback that even after all of our work, there was console and controller play just wasn't feeling right. So I know Alex and a lot of the other team members were doing a lot of investigation here, and we've made some pretty significant improvements specifically for controller play, specifically when it comes to moving around. There's some changes to the variable speed your character moves based on how far you tilt the
So we wanted to give everyone the full information. This is really good for record keeping, for content creation, you know, for understanding. But the TLDR here is we made Smite 2 feel more like what you're used to and what you like about Smite 1. specifically on console, but not only on console. So the other big one was mouse sensitivity, rotational sensitivity. And Smite 2 felt pretty different. You know, you could tinker with it and maybe get it close. Now it should be exactly the same.
Yeah.
So if you have your, I think, what is it set to default 15 or something is the number we choose in Smite 1, or maybe it was 20 or 25. You just tick that down or up to whatever number you use in Smite 1 and Smite 2. Should feel exactly the same. And then more changes were made to controller only, involving the movement speed and variable movement no longer existing. If you make any forward or side input, you'll immediately start moving full speed in that direction. We also have a similar change to rotation rate with a little bit more technical language in there for those who are really interested in this thing. Aim acceleration, which didn't exist at all on Smite 2 controller, but now is available on Smite 2 controller. This was never available. This is a controller only feature no matter what. This was never available in Smite 1 PC with a controller.
Right.
But now you can use aim acceleration on Smite 2 PC with a controller if you so choose to. And yeah, the general note is just as many of these, all of these things are mapped directly to Smite 1, variables, speeds, rotations, everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Just a couple general things before we hop into modes. We've got match history tab that's been added, so you can easily see your match history from the main menu. We've also got some other screens added on the front end for things such as code redemption. And
I don't know if we sent out any codes you would use this for, but we need this. We know we'll need it.
Yeah, we'll need it eventually. So that's in now. And of course, you saw a little bit of a spoiler when Pond was in game. We've got the item purchase notification pop-ups whenever you buy an item.
Yeah, these 3 little bullet points, like they're like, oh yeah, just this, but those are all big features, right? Like, I mean, code redemption doesn't feel like a big feature, but it actually does have a lot of behind the scenes work going on. Match history, I would note that this is kind of the first out of the match history that's going to get expanded upon for the 24/7. But it is really nice to have. You can just go back and see, you know, the high level of what you did recently.
All right, well, let's go ahead and talk about modes. Arena available in Alpha Weekend 4. We're super excited for players to get their hands on it.
Yep.
Are you switched to Arena? You want to hop
I
in?
will have to get the
Let's
cameras
hide Pond
off my
screen. Hide the screen.
yeah.
No spoilers.
So we'll look at the Arena map while we talk about it instead of looking at the patch notes. But to speak high level to Arena, it's we wanted to maintain a lot of the magic that is in Smite 1 Arena. Arena is kind of like, it's got a secret sauce to it that if you mess with the formula too much, it doesn't really get better. We have a few really cool, interesting twists that we've added to the Smite 2 Arena from a gameplay side that I'm really excited about, but the core structure is the same. We wanted to encourage constant fighting, you know, potentially even to reckless degrees. That's what makes Arena fun, honestly. We have a lot of the theming and visuals and audio that people like, the crowd cheering, the spectacle of it. Like, that was a big thing to keep in mind and to move over. And just the art set is a kind of a similar art set as what you would see in Smite 1, but upgraded to the new engine. And it's something we plan to continue to build upon.
Right.
So it's kind of a foundational art set for the Arena.
This is the first iteration of Arena, right? We're going to continue to work on it as we go. But
the new lighting systems and other things like that still bring a whole new environment feel to it that you don't quite get in the old game.
Okay, we are in. We made it into Arena.
all right.
So I know a lot of people are really excited to play Arena on Smite 2 just because they like the mode, they like the you know, potentially the risk and reward differences between Conquest and Arena, and just the ability to like more rapidly test like larger combat scenarios and different gods. So there's a lot of advantages to having Arena in early and just giving our players more options.
Absolutely.
So let's go over some of the new features in this new Arena as we walk around and look at this art. So first of all, we'll see some stealth zones added to the center of the arena. So, you know, people are generally going to have eyes on you. You're not really going to get like a full-scale ambush, but you can use these stealth zones really wisely to, you know, dash and leap into. Just breaking vision from your opponents for a short period of time can be enough to survive and escape. It can make a really big difference. And we've seen some really cool plays with this internally. Let's see. Jungle buffs. So the jungle buffs in the arena are going to have the same buffs as are in Conquest, sorted by color. So there's no speed buff, but the blue, red, and purple buffs in Arena will do the same thing they did in Conquest, and they're automatically set to level 3.
Yes.
So the Conquest system, they start at level 1 and have to rank up, but in Smite, well, that one says level 2, but patch notes says level 3. Maybe just a typo. But they're all automatically going to be leveled up already, and they're not going to be leveled up by the Infamy system in Arena. They're just going to stay that static level. And as Pawn is demonstrating to us, you can still stack the buffs in Arena. So Arena becoming a little bit more strategic on... You know what I love about this particular jungle stacking, specifically in Arena? So often I feel like I'm the only one on my team going and clearing the buffs because everyone's still just fighting.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yo, does anyone want this red buff? And like my whole team just doesn't respond.
Yeah.
Now I can just have
I'm taking all the buffs. You aren't coming over here to clear buffs with me. I'm taking them.
I'll literally be pinging people like, hey, red buff right here, right near you. It would be good for you. And they will just ignore me. So now I can actually get them all, which will be hilarious.
Sweet. Well, the next feature, as people may have noticed, the ward relic is gone, and
You're
there's
telling me wards wouldn't be useful in Arena? What about the stealth grass?
Oh, that's true. I didn't even think about that.
It's small. I was just, yeah. So yeah, we have a new effect here called Battle Cry. And this is something we'll, potentially look into doing in more modes and changing things around. Oh, we've got our other new effect.
too.
Perfect
Oh my
timing. Whoa, what is that? Well, we'll talk about War Cry
one at
first.
a time.
So
Let's do the gift
or
first.
battle.
It's timing out. It's timing out.
It's timing out?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Pick up the gift then. So there's a new pickup feature on this mode called Crowd Gifts. Every 90 seconds, the crowd throws a gift into the arena. Any team can pick these up. Every time a gift is thrown, the timer gets faster. So it starts at 90 seconds, but then it gets faster, 5 seconds each. And then within that timer, every kill will speed it up even faster. So when you kill lots of people, the crowd goes wild and throws more gifts into the arena.
They want to see fighting,
Yeah,
right?
by the end of this, you just see them flying out of the stands. You see a whole bunch of them falling into. Everyone's trying to run to pick them up as they get the last few kills. It's pretty hype.
And so what they do is give you bonus strength, intelligence, and health regen.
Mm-hmm.
So they're relatively powerful, and they scale up in their effects throughout the match. But they don't stack, right, Pon? You can't pick up multiple gifts. You can
They just
refresh.
refresh.
Yeah, so just refresh, but not stack. So you want your whole team to get them, or, you can refresh yours as you need to. But that's one of the new twists on the arena, just completely new, is this crowd gifts. It works really well into the tone and the theme of the arena, and uses the new systems in SMITE 2, and adds some new strategic depth to encourage people to fight, move into dangerous positions, and not just stalemate looking at each other. Mm-hmm. Okay, back to
Battle Cry.
So this is a new active in place of your ward slot. It charges up every time you get a kill or you die. And when you activate it, you get a strength, intelligence, and health regen buff that scales off of how much you charge it up.
Yeah.
So you can use it more frequently if you keep charging it up, and it's even more powerful if you wait until you're full charge before you use it.
Yeah, if you're getting a lot of kills, you can use these to spike up for a lot of damage on an engage, or even just a lot of regen. Like you heal a surprising amount of health when these are fully stacked up.
So that's the first new mechanic, was Battle Cry. So we have stealth zones, Battle Cry, gifts. Another new mechanic on Arena is the hot streak. So we wanted to actually put some additional gameplay value and some strength and some risk reward into who was the kill streak player in Arena, right? You have these Arena matches where one person's going 10-0, and you already know you want to kill that player. There's already some value to it. We wanted to take that up a notch even more. So if you go on a killing streak in Arena, you now have the Arena hot streak effect available to you as well. You will take 20% more damage, but also deal 20% more damage. So you become super high risk reward, and it becomes even more valuable to kill you. They get bonus gold, additional bonus gold, depending on how high level you are. So, now you can actually be the player who he's heating up in the arena.
I love that change. Definitely just rewards you fighting, performing well in arena. You just become that more deadly whenever you're on a hot streak.
I got all the things right now.
Oh my God. Look at that. The effects are stacking really nicely, honestly, too. There's a material glow, the lightning. This is some late stage DBZ stuff right here. Okay,
Hell yeah.
So one more mechanical change. The 10 ticket phase.
Yes.
Arena mains out there know what I mean. So when the game gets to 10 tickets, the rules kind of change. We didn't want to change that system because it works really well, but we did want to draw more attention to it, add some visual clarity and some flair to it. It's going to be very hard for something for Pawn to simulate right now, so we won't be. Let's not demo it. I'm just going to describe it to you. But when you when a team reaches the 10 tickets left phase, the crowd will start cheering more intensely, and gifts will be thrown even faster. the crowd will also throw gifts at a little bit towards the team. It seems like the direction of the gifts might be favored towards the team that's ahead. And the brutes on the team that is losing. So like the team that the 10 brutes that need to die, right? They're the only ones worth tickets anymore.
Yep.
So they're now going to have they're all going to be fired up. They're going to be more powerful. They're going to deal more damage and take less damage. So those brutes are going to be more clearly denoted as a specific objective, and they're going to be a little bit like feel more like an objective to kill as opposed to just like a slightly tankier minion. So that's it for the game mechanics of Arena. One of the last things I want to call out here is the HUD. We've got a new ticket system HUD there at the top center, which is more near the more central area. On Smite 1, it's over near the mini map, which is like not where you usually go to look for your key gameplay information on how the match is progressing. So now you can see that up top. You can see the tickets. You also see the So Minotaurs are still in every 10 kills. The team who gets the kills will spawn the Minotaur. And if you push those through the base, rules are essentially the same, right? Killing minions gets 1 ticket. Killing gods gets 5 tickets. Pushing a minion into the base gives 5 tickets. Getting a escort through the base, I think, is a lot more tickets. It's all essentially the same rules as Smite 1.
It's the Arena fans know and love with just a couple of minor tweaks and new mechanics.
Yeah, the twist mechanics on this, I think, are really like a really cool way to explore a lot of the philosophies we've been getting with Smite 1 of finding cool, fun twists to add. Oh, whoop, and he goes. There are new animations, I think, for pulling the minions in and stuff like that, too. And yeah, the core of the mode, maintaining a lot of the fun that people love and expect, but bringing on some new fun twists on top of it.
Absolutely. Well, we're super excited for people to hop into Arena. I know a lot of players have been waiting for Arena in Smite 2, so super excited to see everyone hop in this weekend. Let's go ahead and move on to Conquest. Don't have a lot for Conquest, but we do have some fixes and a couple of changes here for the Conquest mode.
Is there anything we know we're going to be going in game for?
I want to go back into game for the new jungle practice map.
Okay, so switch there now?
Yes, switch there now. So we'll talk about Conquest real quick. Yeah, we were really focused on the Arena map and the new jungle practice map. So we're about to go to jungle practice. It's a completely new map with a lot of cool new features too. So Conquest just got a little bit of balance change this update. The most important one that we got was the protection shred from the yellow buff, speed buff, high level was really strong. That buff was just really strong. That buff got a lot of other powerful effects. So then it also had this PvP powerful effect, and it was a little too much. So we cut down the numbers pretty significantly on that. Outside of that, we kept Conquest a little light this patch, focused on some other things. We'll definitely be focusing on Conquest very heavily as we approach the 24/7.
Lots of Conquest stuff coming for 24/7.
And you saw a little sneak peek of a new objective that was hidden in the map today, a new monster.
People go back and clip it and speculate. I want to see on Reddit, whatever you guys think.
There is a new camp that was already in there being tested for the next build, and we're gonna keep having regular mechanical updates to Conquest, but just getting Arena into existence in the first place was a really important milestone to make sure we hit first. So now we're back to Conquest. And can't really speak to anything specifically about the other game modes, but other game modes for Smite 2 are in progress and making good progress. And we're not going to give away the exact release cadence of those, but we know that Smite is a multi-mode game, and most of our players are multi-mode players, and we're working towards that.
Yep, absolutely. Well, while
all right,
Pong
let's
gets
look
ready,
at this hot new jungle practice.
New jungle practice.
Yeah.
Are we ready?
We are ready.
Okay. So in jungle practice, you'll be presented with change. So here is the new jungle practice map.
There we go.
So
nice.
Yeah, like it's a lot nicer than the gray box Unreal Engine we were working in before. I mean, it was kind of nice to give people a taste of what the engine really looked like default. But yeah, we now have this. You can see we have this center circle area. And we also have some alcoves along the side that gives us plenty of room to expand into the future. What you're going to see in this initial jungle practice, besides the all-new environment art, which is really nice, pretty, you might not care about that as much because you're just here to test things, but there's a couple really important testing features. So first of all, you'll see that Godbots spawn in with a DPS and total damage counter.
Oh, yeah.
So you can keep track of how much damage you're dealing per second and total damage, which is really cool.
That's great.
It's also a test jungle camp, so you can kind of test versus gods or versus jungles. You can also choose between any of the Conquest jungle buffs to change it. Now, here's where it gets taken up a notch. Here's where we Smite 2'd this.
There we go.
Real hard. Why don't you press the tab button for me, Pon? Boom. We now have UI-based practice tools with a variety of features that you usually had to go run to a pad to, which was kind of a pain. And we have a bunch of features that didn't ever exist in Smite 1. So I know the people who are really interested in lots of crazy detailed practice are going to be enjoying these features. So you can toggle a lot of the stuff at the top. You can see those. A lot of those are mostly stuff you've had before. Different stuff we have down here is the bottom and the control over Godbots. So first of all, if you want to reset the damage and DPS counter, you just spawn a new bot. Those will never reset. You just kill the god or spawn it. You can now choose to spawn it on whichever team you want, and you can choose whichever level you want to spawn it. Now, the probably the biggest new feature here that we have so far is the ability to give inventory. So you can now spawn Godbots with whatever item build you want them to have by building it yourself first. So you build the inventory you want to give them and then spawn a Godbot. They will have all of those items. And then you can sell and rearrange and whatever, pick your build. So you can test whatever build versus build you want to test.
So you can see here that these two Ymirs are both level 9 Ymirs, but one clearly has the inventory, one doesn't, because I spawned that one before I gave
way more health, yeah.
Which makes sense with the items that I've built.
But you can also test for like damage auras and passive effects, and you can trigger those things all on the bots. So again, this is just kind of laying out some of the foundations for this mode, but it has a lot of immediate new features that are brand new to Smite 2, going to be really helpful for content creation, theory crafting, and playtesting. And it has lots of room for improvement, lots of room to expand over time.
Yep.
So this was like a pretty big feature, and people were actually like really asking for this a lot from very early, because when people load into a new game, or they load into a Smite on a new update, a lot of people just like to come here first, play the new god, play the new skins,
try everything out, try
whatever. Yeah. So there's a full god select before you join this that lets you pick any god, any skin. You can enter the practice mode either when you're viewing a god's abilities on the front end ability screen. You can enter practice directly from there, or you can just queue up, essentially change game mode and queue up to practice mode, enter from there.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Well, that wraps it up for modes. How about we move into talking about new gods?
Yeah. Pon, do you want to just test the new gods in this map?
Yeah, why not?
We talked about doing that before.
I mean, I'm going to use my cheats because I have Hook Me Up, and I like that one. But we can spawn bots as we need to.
Hook Me Up effectively just turns on all of those things in the practice at the top. Sets you level 20, infinite cooldown, infinite mana. That's really all it does. Cool. So we have Ares, but we also have Susanoo. He's first on the patch notes list, so we should probably go in order and switch to Susanoo.
Yeah, let's talk about Susanoo.
So, Pon, you just want to do the usual. Let's do this. Just a kit demo.
We actually have a bug in dev right now, so I think I actually have to relaunch. Let me see if I can fix this in real time real quick.
This is not in the alpha build that y'all are about to play. Yeah. We're in a future build already here, so we encountered it.
Well, while Pon's getting ready, talk to just a little bit about how Susanoo made his way into Smite and kind of the approach for Susanoo.
Well, there's a lot of hype around this guy, right? Like one of the fastest, flashiest, often high skill ceiling god. Although even mediocre Susanoos can be a pain for you sometimes. But a lot going on with this character. A lot of people were excited to see him come to the game. He also kind of limit tests the game. Susanoo has a little bit of everything.
Yes.
And more than a little bit of some things, maybe more than he should have, right? Historically, a god that has always had a lot of polarizing balance perceptions. He's got really good damage, really good mobility, really good CZ. He's kind of got it all, right? So trying to balance a god like that is a challenge, and we wanted to bring him in early to Smite 2 to really help explore the limit testing of pushing how many features a kit can have, right? Susanoo is up there at the tippity top.
Oh, yeah.
So when we were thinking about porting him over to Smite 2, that was one thing that was really important and something we really planned around. The other one was muscle memory.
Yeah.
Susanoo is like an extreme muscle memory, absolutely amazing kit flow character.
Yeah,
we didn't want to disrupt
now.
that.
Yeah.
So because of those two things, that kind of spells out where I'm going here, which is like, we didn't want to change him too intensely. If we change his ability in any way that could disrupt the whole kit flow, that like even if it's a new thing added to the ability presses, it could make the kit flow differently and could throw off the muscle memory, could feel frustrating to opponents, etc. So his 1 through 4 are mostly unchanged. They're really flashy, they're really cool, they're really smooth, fast, a lot of like the general improvements you have on Smite 2. And a couple like quality of life features. The big change here is the passive. He's got a completely new passive. which I think the passive is really cool here. It's called Storm's Edge, and it's whenever you use an ability, your next basic attack will debuff the enemy hit. So it effectively rewards you for in-hand canceling, and it stacks. So this is a kind of a new type of debuffing stacks that instead of just stacking the same effect many, many times, it actually stacks on different effects. So when you hit them with 2 stacks, they have reduced strength. For when you have 3 to 4 stacks, they have reduced strength and are slowed. And when they have 5 to 6 stacks, they have reduced strength and are slowed and take increased damage.
It's a lot.
Yeah. So it's really like if you fully in-hand cancel throughout the whole kit, you can stack it up. But it's kind of hard to do that unless you really hit everything.
Yep.
And if this character is still alive after all that, they will have to live through the debuffs that the Susanoo has left on them.
And let your team clean up on
Right.
the debuff target.
And this also has a new HUD element only visible to Susanoo that shows him how many passive stacks he's applied to the target gods, which we just saw a minute ago. I mean, I think it went away on that Ymir when...
Yeah, the Ymir bots will sometimes behave strangely with these elements. You can see there they disappear because the other one is respawning.
Yeah.
But we did see it a few times. I was able to stack it up to 6 times. You could see that there was that stack counter that showed you all the various stacks that you got.
Right. One of the other notable changes is the Typhoon during its build-up. It does not have that slow, like, mini vortex pull into it anymore, but it does just have some dot damage. Wanted to make sure you felt something when you're in that, you're in a building storm, you want to know there's some effect, but the pull there was questionable strength because it was like a vortex, not a slow. It was hard to feel, hard to map, and it potentially contributing to him having just a little bit too much CC on the kit. And there was quite a bit of effort that went into making sure that Storm Kata flows really smoothly and works like what people are used to make for easy in-hand canceling on both PC and console. This Storm Kata has the feature where if you cancel the ability early, don't use the second or third hit, it will have shorter cooldown. So it only has a full normal cooldown if you use the full set of the ability. So if you need to just like get out of there early, you won't be punished for that. I think that's. I mean, most of it is Smite 1. So
Yeah. Again, very similar. Susanoo has just a lot of things in his kit, lots of CC, mobility, control. We wanted to really just encourage that extra reward for doing the thing that he's really good at, which is that in-hand weaving in between each of his usages that really puts him as a very high damage assassin when he's able to do that in-hand weaving.
Yeah, he's looking sick too. I'm loving the effects on all of his abilities.
Yeah, his effects look really great. I will say that we're still in the middle of a little bit of like a clarity pass adjustment for a lot of gods, including ones that have already shipped and ones in progress. So there might be some further changes to this ability, to these abilities for the visuals over time. But Susanoo is one of the newer gods, so our newer principles, lessons learned are being applied here. So I'll, constantly working on the clarity there.
And in this map, the bloom is turned up a little bit high, so that's why you can see sometimes the sparks on his things are a little bit intense. That's stuff that is known about the bloom being off on some of the maps that we play on.
It's essentially a lighting effect of this map alone, so it might look a little bit different here on Conquest too.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Pawn.
All right.
Good note.
Well, Ares is up next.
My boy.
God of War.
Okay, we
Let's
have
talk
to
about
leave
Ares
again because I can't switch class to him without breaking.
So we have to go back to
All right,
patch notes. We'll
production.
do the little
Pull us up, production.
patch notes. We'll do the little intro for Ares while Pawn switches.
There we go. Cool.
Okay, so Ares has a little more change than Susanoo, which is funny because I think some early flash testers were like, "What changed about Ares?" Was like, "Well, 2 whole abilities were reworked, plus other changes." So, but some changes easier to see right off the bat than others. But in general, again, Ares also a very successful god. One we think has aged really well, really fun, really exciting. One of our highest DPS supports, right? High kill potential for a support. Has a lot of forms of control, but kind of in different ways than other gods that play support do. He doesn't really have that lockdown as much as he has that attrition and damage over time and the crippling effect, right? Preventing people from dashing away. So the big changes to Ares are going to be his passive and his ability 2 are both going to be completely new.
And we are back in game.
Oh, that was so fast.
quick.
Yeah.
Look at you. There's no one better at this job than Pon. This specific job of driving during the patch notes.
Do you want me to go over the passive?
Yeah. Why don't you?
Yeah, so the first major thing you'll notice is his passive is different. You can see that I'm giving both intelligence and strength down here. And the way that works is his his passive in Smite 1 is all about building a whole bunch of aura items to get a whole bunch of magical power. And that is something that we just don't really have as many aura items in Smite 2, largely because we're trying to make sure that we don't have these characters that just turn into aura bots to provide everyone a whole bunch of protections and make it so that everyone has to, like, there's a lot of things that came with aura items, but since we don't really have those, Ares needed something new, and we want to give him a more unique build challenge, because the aura was a kind of fun build challenge that he had. So now what it is for every 20% of your protections that you buy from items, that gets converted into strength. For 100% of the cooldown rate you buy, that's converted into intelligence. So the more protections you build, the more strength you're bringing to your team in an aura, including yourself. For the more cooldown reduction you're going, or cooldown rate that you're going, you'll bring more intelligence to your team. And Ares is a god that scales off both of them as well, so you can focus on different aspects of your kit, or you can choose to build to specifically augment how your team wants to play. So he himself is a very aggressive aura bot, where as he builds more utility and more kind of tanky supporty, he brings that extra power to the team, or he can obviously go pure damage and forgo this. You get some for free from just leveling up.
Yeah.
Full int and cooldown would make for a really strong just int DPS build. Absolutely. Like I've played jungle Ares full int, full magic power in Smite 1, and it's underrated. It's good. So Ares has a lot of flex to be, you know, true tank. Even when he's true tank, he's going to do some damage.
Right.
Even if you build full true tank. But he has a lot of really interesting. This passive gives him those hybrid build options that can be really good, or even more true DPS build options.
And in fitting with his theme is this kind of like war leader who wants to lead the charge and just wants to get into the thick of it and fight and be aggressive as the god of war. His 2 has also been reworked. In Smite 1, it was an aura that you activated that just gave everyone some protections and some HP 5. And in Smite 2, it's a lot more active. So when you activate it, you give everyone who's around you immediately a long duration buff. And I believe the buff is about 6 seconds long. And this buff gives you protections and in-hand power. So all your basic attacks hit harder. So if I activate it, you can see I buff myself and now I deal some more damage with my auto attacks. You can see I also have a mark on me that's really bright and lit up right now. And what that is as you deal damage to gods, you get stacks. So activate it. This is empty. 1, 2, 3. Oh, because I have a proc, it procced it. So my item also counted as a proc. But if you attack a god with 3 unique instances of damage, the buff triples in strength and gets 4 seconds longer in duration, and that's tracked separately for your whole team. So you buff your team with this aggressive thing that wants them to go in and fight, and if they are successful at that, they get to reap the benefits of that and actually get to be way more powerful. So a much more active, more offensive, asking your team to do something type of effect than the passive aura that he previously had in the second ability. All in the theme of he is that kind of frontline support who wants to be in the thick of fights and wants to encourage his team to be in the thick of fights.
So it is still a, you know, point blank AoE buff. It's essentially like the same shape of a hit ability, but it has very different effects and the unique individual upgrade per player. So if you buff your whole team, each individual ally has to do their own performance-based challenge to buff to stack that up and power it up for themselves. Was something really new and really exciting that we think fits the character and the kit like really well. Cool. And it's one of those things I'm just like surprised we hadn't done something quite like this yet before.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it just feels super natural to Smite and Ares, and it's really fun to play with.
And it wouldn't be Ares without some chains, right,
Yep.
Fawn?
So we also got, of course, his AO1 chain shackle ability, and we got some really cool stuff going on with the chain tech where it kind of droops and gets more taut as you actually get in different ranges. And one of the nice quality of life features we actually added was it actually now shows when it's about to break. So you can see here, I'm actually at a range where if I keep going, it's going to break. And if I keep going, sure enough, it breaks. So you get a little bit more feedback, both from the actual chain itself, but also just that little bit of flashing.
And look at that refire border around the ability icon. Shows you the refire window.
Looking good.
The third ability, obviously, is the other thing about this is he is strength and intelligence based now. So all the things that are like the physical aspects of him hitting with the sword, the chain connecting with you, those are strength. So those are the ones that actually scale off the strength, and you can make it so your initial hit of your chain hits really hard. Things that are more burning, like the actual chain being on you, this hot chain on you, the flamethrower from his AO3, those are more intelligence based, and they will scale off intelligence. So his 3, which does this kind of burning damage and does percentile health damage, the percentile health damage actually scales with your intelligence. So depending on what you focus on, you can be more this long duration burn percentile health damage, or it can be a lot more burstier with your chain initial hits and your auto attacks in between. Another nice quality of life change is there were some rules around, like, if you chain someone and then you 3'd, you could keep firing your chain. But if you did it the reverse way, that actually didn't work in Smite 1. We've now just eased that up, so now you can obviously use both during each other freely without any preconditions, which just smooths out his gameplay rotation. And then the final change we have is for his ultimate. His ultimate is super iconic. We went and tried a lot of different things, trying to see if we needed to change him based off of beads being a more limited resource, or if people felt like they could try and get away from him with Blink, or if we wanted to try stuff different. But we realized that, like, he does do the ultimate where he pulls everyone in. And so obviously you got this big giant pull, and everyone comes in. The main change for him is, one, it now has a visual pull component. So instead of just teleporting instantly to the center, they actually get pulled towards that location. So you get a little bit of just more movement in the ability, which feels good. But also, so we're going to pull them, come crashing down, they get stunned. But also, if I whiff, because at some point you're going to blink Ares and whiff.
It happens to the best of us.
This area underneath him, when he comes slamming down, is still a stun area.
Oh, yeah.
So not only can you pull someone, but you could also, like, stand on top of your carry and, like, protect them from someone who you might miss the initial pull on. And that gives you that extra flexibility of just your position matters a little bit more. Even if you do successfully pull people, you might want to, like, try and land on someone else that you didn't successfully pull, or they might have beadsed off the pull, but you then want to try and punish them for that by landing on them instead. So that little extra bit of control is going to be useful for him, and high-end players, Ares players, are going to make, I think, a lot of good use of that.
We got to talk about the CC immunity rules too, Pon.
Yep. So the other big thing is Ares ultimate, the pull was you had to immune it at the moment of the pull. And over Smite's lifetime, we've done different rules on, like, what happens with things when you pure beads off them. Daji notably has the chain so that if you get hit, if you bead, they just go off you. You don't have to wait for that pull time. And we wanted to match that behavior because we think that just gives players more control over when they actually remove this effect. So if you become CC immune at any point during the chains, they will immediately fall off you. And then you don't have to have that timing element for it. So let's see if I can...
This one is a really big deal, actually, because Ares would very frequently apply his ult to targets who are already CC immune and then wait for the CC immunity to fall off and then pull them. That doesn't work anymore. So in the Ares mirror matches and testing, we had a lot of people like, whoever ults first, the other Ares can just ult back and will always win that. That doesn't work anymore because the Ares you hit is still CC immune. So you have to wait for that to finish.
Yeah, trying to get them to actually cast their ultimate.
Can you get the Amir? You can't bots shoot them up?
I can bot shoot 4. Ooh, I can't bot shoot 4. Maybe they don't have... Nope, they will not respect that right now. So I can't, but I'll try to get Ymir to be CC immune ultimate. But
right.
Essentially, it's if they are immune during the time that you cast them, they won't be a valid target for you to chain in the first place.
Yes.
And if they become CC immune for any reason, like Ymir or like Purification Beads, why the chain's on them, it'll also fall off. We are also looking at feedback to make that a bit more clear, because the situations where they're actively CC immune and you ult and you don't see a chain, it feels like you don't have the feedback there. Yeah. So we are looking to improve that. But that is intent, and it makes it so that people can cleanse off this effect, and you have a bit more idea of like when people have removed it, and people have a better understanding of like, oh, this is not going to affect me now anymore.
Right. So I see chat is definitely getting it right off the bat with like kind of constraining CC immunity and beads a little bit more in Smite 2. Having some additional anti-CC here is really valuable, because this effect is really polarizing if you can't counter it. So this effectively adds for a lot more counterplay, which we think is really good. And he does. Yeah, you've stacked them all on top of each other. He also still has that crash landing stun at the end. So even if people do CC immune the chains, if you stick close to them, you can still hit them with that damage and stun spike after their CC immunity fades. So like there's a lot of extra layers of counterplay to this ultimate, as opposed to it just being very prescriptive before. You can also combat blink does not have an ability or damage restriction, so you can ult people and then combat blink away to pull them even further.
Yep. Just why I figured I should show that off, because that's also part of it.
People would definitely ask.
So those are the two new gods for this alpha test that you will be able to play today.
Yeah. Super excited for people to get their hands on Susano and Ares. Play them. Let us know what you think. But we've also got just some other general god balance and item balance that we're going to go over today too.
Yeah, we can probably just look at patch notes for these last ones.
Yep.
Down to the god balance section, Pompon.
Is all the god stuff that we just went over.
Yeah, the full ability kit text is in the patch notes for reference.
Cool. All right, God balance. So a little bit of a general change first. We touched on a little bit earlier about the TTK changes that came in the last alpha weekend, making some slight adjustments, mainly towards the late game, though, right?
Yeah, we liked that. So in Alpha Weekend 3, we reduced all gods' base health by 25%. So this is the amount of health that they have at the start of the game. And we didn't do any compensation buff for like making them so they matched the health at the end of the game. It was just a flat, basically everyone lost around 150 to 175 health. We like the aggression that it caused in the early game, but we think it brought the TTK down too low at the late game. So we're keeping the low early game TTK. We're not adjusting that. If you're level 1, it'll be the exact same, but we are giving some health per level to make it so that when you get to the end game, that 25% that we removed is basically offset to bring our TTK back in the late game somewhere that's a bit more in the ballpark of where we want it. And it also has a secondary thing, which we'll talk about as well, which is we got a lot of feedback that playing a tank role and playing a more like really defensive role didn't feel as strong as it should. So we have obviously a whole bunch of item buffs for being more tanky that are coming up. But part of that is when you have lost a base 150 health and you build a whole bunch of protections, that health that you had was a lot more valuable on that tank than it was on a squishy. And so by giving everyone essentially an extra 150 health, people who are building prots will benefit more from that change. So it's also, it kind of doubles as a adjustment to help that feedback of tanks not feeling powerful enough.
Right.
So as we get into the god balance, you're going to see a lot of direct tank god buffs and item buffs. And then you're going to see some of the overperforming god nerfs and item nerfs, mostly non-tanks.
Right.
So some of these might not require very lengthy descriptions, but we'll do our best to share any insights we have on them. So first up is Thanatos. We're calling this a shift nerf.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that means he did have some things increased and some things decreased, but overall it's a net nerf. Numerically. Page up.
Yep. I zoomed in a little bit.
No, you're good. Thanks, Spawn. So the main thing we got the feedback from Thanos is that just Death Scythe, that hit has to chunk.
Oh, yeah.
It's got to hit hard. So his damage was maybe a little too evenly spread out across his kit, and we're moving some of it back to Death Scythe. So we got some base damage, especially early game on Death Scythe, and then the penetration nerf on Scent of Death and Soul Reap damage nerf on those two to offset that. And also he did have some issues with movement speed. There was a couple characters that had movement speed bugs that were getting a movement speed more than intended, especially they weren't being affected by diminishing returns of our movement speed properly. So there's a few things that were just going too fast. He's still going to go fast.
Oh yeah.
In Smite 2, gods have faster base speed, and therefore so items and buffs are like more powerful. We might be doing some rebalancing for that in the future, but for now this is just a core fix here and that shift.
All right, the Morgan is up next. Another shift nerf. We actually talked about this when we first revealed
we
the Morgan.
teased it.
Yeah, we said that this was a feature that was coming in. One thing that didn't ship with the release where she was added, we wanted Doomsayer, her passive, the damage over time effect, to be able to proc the Dark Omen, her second ability. And so that is in now, which is obviously a huge buff to her. It makes her able to proc that more reliably on her own. And we've paired that with a few other adjustments relating to making sure that she has her confusion and her changeling. They have extra rules that are being applied to them, which I don't actually know if this is the correct note.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I forgot to cut that third one. That changeling change didn't get in.
Okay.
Yes. As with the ever-changing
Strike that's from the record,
Strike
sir.
as you guys can give feedback on if you like this change or not, but as with game development, sometimes we work on stuff and it doesn't quite make it into the release. And to you guys,
So Morgan still gets double relics.
Yes.
For now.
Double relics.
double
Morgan.
relics for now.
So
I believe the
trigger her
confusion
own passive
say-
and the no, that just should say nothing.
Okay.
You just didn't change it.
And then this should also say
Increased cooldown for
That should say that.
yes,
That's
yes.
right.
because the amount of times that she can stealth, especially before she actually ranks the ability, it was just really frequent. And with actually the clone being a lot more convincing, people have been caught out a lot more by it, which has been interesting. So making it so that this happens less frequently gives her a little bit less safety, especially before she ranks.
This is a kind of deceivingly long cooldown because it happens right away, but it has a relatively long effect, like the stealth and the clone and stuff. So like it feels much shorter cooldown because of that uptime and the persistent time and cooldown purchasing. But yeah.
All right.
All right, let's see who's next.
Fenrir nerf to the ultimate.
That's right. We nerfed it. I believe this has kind of been a theme, just nerfing Ragnarok. It's like, as we're talking about Ares and the CC immunity and the value there, Fenrir also is a key limit tester on that regard. So Ragnarok has just been really, really strong. So taking the damage down this time.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Soul getting a couple nerfs to Radiance and Supernova.
Soul, and again, another really strong performer, benefits a lot from the new split item system. Just giving her a little bit less sustain overall from Radiance, now that that ability does more than just be the heal and heat generator with its larger AoE. And then Supernova was obviously dealing just a lot of damage as well. We've toned that down, so it's still chunks, but just not as much.
Cool. All right. Moving on to God buffs.
The tank
Athena
buffs.
up first. Yeah.
Yeah, Preemptive Strike now gains physical and magical protections for 4 seconds after hitting an enemy god. That is a feature in Smite 1. She has a block stack, or that was reworked and changed in Smite 1. Yep. It's been reworked and changed a few times over the years, but currently in Smite 2, there was nothing there. So now that's been added. Confound, the taunt, has had the slow removed entirely and effectively should feel much more like Smite 1's taunt.
Yep.
Chalk is up next. Keeping in line with the tank buffs here.
Yep, and for Chalk especially, his intelligence focus build is actually, I think, in a really good spot. But the strength focus build, as a split character, it just didn't feel like it was quite doing enough. And so this makes that build path a bit more viable for Chalk. It also, as a base, is kind of a buff because you do get per level strength on every character. So this also does mean that these will just be hitting harder as a flat line. But it's more beneficial to a strength build.
Chalk was already very tanky, and his debuffs are very potent. We even nerfed that recently because it was so much the case. But we were still looking to look at some key tank characters in Smite 2 and do some buffs. And we're like, Chalk, when he's really building strength, it still doesn't feel like a strength damage build. So he's getting some damage scaling bonus there.
Yep.
All right, Amir's up next. Frost Breath going to be getting an increase in the stun duration. And then Shards of Ice seeing a few buffs here to that one.
So this one, Frost Breath, is we did the CC duration reduction last update, which people really liked. And it hit everyone pretty equally. So the thing was, it would hit Ymir potentially a little bit too much, especially in the early ranks. He can't really use his stun to set up for himself and his team as he could before. So this shift is only an early rank. You can see at max rank is still the same. So we're not increasing the ceiling of the duration of the Frost Breath, the post nerf. It's still in the new shorter CC world. We just kind of squished those numbers a little bit to improve the lower ranks, so it feels a little bit more consistent. Actually lets him set up and do things better. And then Shards of Ice is a damage shift to make sure that he does some damage.
Yeah, cool. And then last up for God buffs, Odin just getting some increased damage on Lunge.
Yep, a strength buff here makes it so that it actually hits harder, adds to the Bird Bomb combo, just makes that engage more potent.
All right.
So, similar deal as Chalk, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, moving on to items. Soul Devourer up next for a nerf. Popular item, Soul Devourer, right?
Yeah, really popular, really strong. It got a passive effect nerf last patch, getting intelligence nerf this patch. The numbers are balanced to perfection. That's why they're sometimes not even numbers. Round numbers are the enemy of balance, by the way. Like, if you rounding everything, then you end up with a lot of little imbalance issues, right? So, yeah, 57. That's where we think it's perfect, okay? That's enough. Moving on.
All right.
Maybe that has to come down to 55.
Right.
Or 50. Or back up to 60.
Was it Jotuns that had 11 pen for like 2 years?
Probably, but in pen is like a really big deal. So every point of pen is really valuable.
Every
so
point matters of it.
That's a good balance. That's
right.
good balance.
Staff of Mirrodin up next.
Really powerful active effect, really popular item. We don't want to start just nerfing the active effects because that's like the whole point of the item. It shouldn't be so good at everything, right? So we're taking down the stats. We want to make sure items have more focused roles and more powerful roles and specific purposes. So anything that feels like it's a little too good at everything, we'll be trying to, pick the thing it's supposed to be the best at and nerf the other things.
Yep.
All right, Hasten Fatalis up next is a fix.
Yes.
But is a nerf. People were zooming.
It's a pretty massive nerf.
It's a pretty big nerf.
So you were able to cheat basically a negative basic attack penalty with this because you just overcap it, which made you go faster while you were auto-attacking.
It was applying a double negative to you, which actually made you go faster when attacking.
Yes.
Faster than normal.
So this will fix that, which automatically is a pretty substantial nerf to what we had in the last round. We're also looking at it right now. There's how it interacts with strafing penalties is not quite where we want it to be. So that'll probably be coming in the future. So expect something more with Haste of Metalis in the future, but this should make it a lot less crazy than we saw last Alpha Weekend.
It's still stronger than the Smite 1 version as far as the movement speed passive effect goes. But you have to hit twice to stack it instead of just once, and the stat offset is different between the two games, but still strong. So we'll be looking.
There's some great clips last weekend, though. I got to say, it was really funny watching people use Fatalis. But up next, Bloodforge Blade seeing a nerf, and this is our last item nerf for this release.
Yep, similar deal as what I said before on Mirrodin. This is like the go-to lifesteal and the active shield, which is really good, kind of a pseudo Aegis. It's very popular, picked up very frequently in the early game. Doing a little bit too much of everything by also having a decent strength amount. So just taking that strength down a little bit to maybe, if you wanted to go for like a high strength item first to counteract this or to go for a different, more aggressive playstyle, we want those to actually have some more difference in their feel to them as opposed to like Bloodforge being the right go every time.
Yeah. All right, moving on to some of the tank items. Leviathan Hide up first, seeing a buff.
This item is nuts now, Pon.
Yeah, he read.
What have you done?
Yeah, me and Clubsy were cooking, and he read this, and he's like, "Wait, is this not just busted?" But yeah, so we increase the protection and the cost, mostly to so the protection just helps out a lot, but the cost adjustment is to deal with the new buffed passive. Before it was 5% stacking 3 times, which is 15%, is now 20 over 2 stacks, so that first time you get hit, it's an immediate 10% strength reduction. This is going to be a lot more effective at slowing down the damage output of characters that are hitting you.
Yeah.
This is the ultimate get behind me item. Like,
Yep.
All right, Shogun's Afuda up next, increasing the magic protections on that one.
that's right. That one has the attack speed aura. It's a beloved item from Smite 1 we've had for a long time. It just was, we were potentially just over punishing for the effect of that aura. It's hard to really measure the impact of auras because they could be up to 5x the amount of stats they're applying, which is a lot in theory, but in reality they're not hitting all of your whole team all the time. So finding that kind of sweet spot in between, there's room to adjust on this item without any drastic cost changes or whatever. And we were trying to make the tanky gods even tankier in this patch, so just giving it a nice magical protection buff so you can build this on some of the gods that could use it really well and still stay tanky.
Yeah, cool. Next up is Hussar's Wing is a fix, but actually reads as a buff for people that may not have noticed.
Right. So in perception, what matters, and reading the item is what matters to people. So this doesn't actually make the item any better, but it was previously listed in only a 10% speed buff, which doesn't look very exciting when you read it. So I think a lot of people were just glancing over it because of that. Now it actually has the proper text for the proper speed, so I think a lot more people will be interested in trying it.
Yeah. All right, we're rattling through them. Stampede is up next. Just 5 more protections.
The AoE active sprint buff, like I think people have been having a hard time finding a place for this in their builds. There's like so many interesting items and powerful items to this one. But this one in theory is really powerful to give your whole team that chase potential or escape potential. Again, just getting some more protections to make sure it keeps you tanky too.
And I think it's also important to note that as we talk about, like, tanks felt underwhelming last patch, getting that extra 150 health from the per level scaling, and then throughout the build, if you're building 4 or 5 or 6 of these items, that extra 5 protections, that starts to add up and become meaningful, especially because pen is a lot more limiting of a factor. So each point of prots has a lot of weight behind it. So we could have seen larger buffs here, but we think these incremental adds in a full build are going to be pretty significant in making tanks feel tankier without overdoing it.
Right, just sprinkling a little bit on a handful of items versus, a lot on a couple.
Right.
All right, next up is Ruinous Ankh, seeing a decrease to the mana cost and increasing the health.
Mana cost is a typo. That's just mana.
The mana.
It's a shift from mana to health.
Yeah.
Sorry for the typos.
And in general, for a tanky item, extra health is going to be more valued than the mana that was on it.
This item gives you the both protections, health, and anti-heal aura. It's a great support item. So just a little extra health on it. It just makes sure if you're a support, you're considering this.
Buy anti-heal, folks.
Yeah.
Buy anti-heal.
Especially with lifesteal changes in Smite 2.
Absolutely. All right, next up, Breastplate of Valor. One of my favorite items.
Yeah, so the new passive in Smite 2 that gives you the cooldown bonus for damage taken is now going to be a little easier to trigger.
Yes.
And the numbers are all mathed out there for you.
Yeah, I showed 1, 10, and 20 just so you get an idea of how much health you need to lose to get the effect.
Yeah. All right, just a couple more left. Silken Mailcoat are next to last one here. Just, a few more physical prots on that one.
This item is nuts. It's the crit, it's the anti-crit and anti-attack speed aura item, and it's got now even more physical protections. Like, if you really want to counter the enemy carries in this next patch as a tank, I really think we've given you the tools to do that, right? through a combination of giving yourself more protections and then potentially decreasing their speed, their crit chance, and attack speed all at once. It's like it gives you a lot of power to counteract these builds as you need.
Cool. All right, then last up on our list, Pharaoh's Curse, seeing a buff.
5 prots, 50 gold reduction. It's just better.
It's just better.
It is. It's a little bit better, but this, AoE, slow, and damage output active. So,
yeah,
like,
these 3 combined with this is your let's stop the hunter from completely steamrolling the team. All of that build is now just that much better.
Yeah. So that's the last item on the patch. I mean, it's been really nice having chat here on my iPad while we're working through it. People seemed hyped. There's a lot of people asking about when servers are live. Kilgoon did mention in chat, Alex, who was just on the show, that they're looking at some final go live issues right now before we go live. So like, I don't think we're prepared to press this button right now and say servers are live, but it should be like minutes.
Yeah, fairly soon after.
If anyone Hi-Rez is out there listening to us, come tell us.
Let us know, because I want to go play.
Should we stay here and like if it's only gonna be 5 minutes, should we just like should we just read chat?
I can bring up the spreadsheets. I have a web browser.
Right. Should we just we can bring up the spreadsheets. We can take questions. Or something until the servers go live if it's just going to be a few minutes. But other than that, thanks everyone who stopped by for the show, even though it was on short notice.
I know, right? Thanks to you, AJ, and Pon. I know this was an impromptu thing that just kind of came to fruition over the last 24 hours. So really appreciate you all taking the time to, come on stream, hang out for a little bit, show off all the cool stuff.
Yeah.
I said to do the Wordle, but I've already done today's.
Do the Wordle.
Just do the Wordle on camera together. That's what we do now.
You can bring up SMITE. There's a SMITE.
Oh, yeah,
SMITE.
So we said, someone said, I wonder if we'll ever see Hog or Fist of the Gods again. You should go check out the patch notes for the new Sunder.
Check out Sunder.
Someone said, when will servers be closing?
Saturday, 10 p.m.
Saturday night is the plan.
After
plans can always change, though, but that's the current plan. Is if servers come up soon, now-ish, they'll be up until Saturday evening Eastern time.
We have the esports tournament on Saturday, so we definitely we'll keep servers up for as long as that tournament takes, plus a little bit of extra time for people to get their games in. But yeah, keep an eye on our official social channels.
Can we skip the intro video yet? The answer is no.
You will see Pon and
everybody
Travis.
to know it's an alpha, and everybody needs to enjoy that
I can't
moment
believe
with
you'd want
Pon.
to skip a video.
I know, right?
Honestly insulting. We understand that there's the desire for that, but that's the case. There's a question about Brazil servers.
I believe we had Brazil servers last week, or in our last closed alpha test.
Yeah.
So they should be back in this one. Don't hold me to it. Things could always change.
Yeah, we have. So just like, I can't say exactly for that, but the answer is that we have been testing in many regions across the entire world, every alpha test. Some of them have different levels of availability. Sometimes it's customs only versus queue. The only way to be sure is to go in and into the alpha and click that change region button and see what's available there. So yes, there are Brazil servers. Yes, there are EU servers and EMEA servers. So those are there, but they're just up and down at different durations and for different modes. Okay, I don't have any information from any Hi-Rez people about should we intentionally stall until the servers come up. So
Yeah,
maybe we should just call it.
Yeah, let's go ahead and call it.
Okay.
That way we can get back to our desks and we'll get the official word. Everyone, thanks so much for joining the stream. Keep an eye on our official social media channels, the official Discord. We will post as soon as we have info for when servers will go live. Should be hopefully soon, but we'll definitely let you know when we're ready to go. But until then, thanks so much, AJ and Pon, for joining us, and we will see you all shortly on the battleground in SMITE 2.
Thanks.
Made in Georgia.
black dress 동칭찬하게 원옥저 홍대 춤춰줄 것 같지 I know your friends 해 불러 올래 어수 많은데 it's time Little black dress 동칭찬하게 원옥저 홍대 춤춰줄 것 같지 I know your friends 해 불러 올래 어수 많은데 it's time Yeah 클럽 안에서 원원하는 급식 ladies with the black G만 쳐다봐 여자들을 좋아하는 style You know filthy 우리 더러워질 거니까 yeah You got time 여기 자리 비워 한 질레 High heels crop top 조금 가깝게 Got time call your friends 친구 데리고 와 대표 I'm the king of the stand little ma 너나 몰라 내 말 들어봐 I got my crew got my squad 우리 들어가 I know a girl 너가 저건 좋아하나 봐 Baby 1, 2 step skip time 찾아가 You can call me king 사진처럼 picture perfect hopping at the bench 미안하지만 주소에 써줘 she a 10 조금만이라도 여기 있어줄래 오빠 착각 공연하고 we can kick it back Little black dress 동칭찬하게 원옥저 홍대 춤춰줄 것 같지 I know your friends 해 불러 올래 어수 많은데 it's time Little black dress 동칭찬하게 원옥저 홍대 춤춰줄 것 같지 I know your friends 해 불러 올래 어수 많은데 it's time Party 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 I like my girls real thick from the waist down 예민하게 사과하지 않아 say what I want 나는 맞지 여자 한 명뿐이라면 너무 재미없지 Baby hit the flow get low up 빨리 touch 저기 saw you from across the room 이름은 다 해내는 거 알아 yeah sure 알았는데 think you feel me 여기 오라고 think I gotta go 같이 여기 나와 내 집으로 in the limelight Thinking about the time I'm thinking that the time's right 시간 내줘 내가 보여줘 that all night I can show you things I've seen 여기 큐퍼 어떻게 놓는지 know what I mean 나 지금 여기 사실가 친구랑 있지 너 지금 기차 타고 여기 올래 작전했니 You go on and on 술 안 마신다고 했지 No way 내가 좋아하는 치마 입고 왔니 난 뉴욕에서 제일 잘 나가는 MC 모르는 바는 모르는 사람 여기 별로 없지 미쳐버린 범인 나의 편망은 버밍햄에도 알지 넌 멀지 너랑 나랑 같은 줄 알아니 Don't play me 미친 듯이 crazy yeah kill it on my kelby During the penny when it's I need get for wealthy 돈에 문제 없지 이젠 cause you know I'm wealthy 복근 찾아와 you can find me boy Little black dress 동칭찬하게 원옥저 홍대 춤춰줄 것 같지 I know your friends 해 불러 올래 어수 많은데 it's time Little black dress 동칭찬하게 원옥저 홍대 춤춰줄 것 같지 I know your friends 해 불러 올래 어수 많은데 it's time Party Party Party